So this is DVD. Welcome to it. I am Mark Stewart Greenstein. DVD here stands for Don't Vote Democrat. DVDs are a little outdated, but Don't Vote Democrat is exceptionally timely because for the first time in my lifetime, there are very few exceptions. I will get to them at the end. Across the board, incumbent Democrats are either providing or upholding evil. They're either the doers of evil legislation or the backers, without saying anything to the contrary, of others who would foist evil upon us. Now, if you see some tough opponent, Democrat, Republican, or independent, trying to go up against a leftist, please recognize they are well armed, and please give some leeway if there's some stumbling by their opponent, because they have become very good at squashing speech. They stifle speech. They do it, well, here's their favorite one. They will call any policy of an opponent racist. They will sometimes call the opponent, him or herself, racist. But even if branded with a racist policy and you're the one behind it, this is hard to escape. They, in the process, quell one speaking freely. They actually keep their own Democrat voters from speaking freely. People who know that they're spouting nonsense about defund the police, nonsense about having no cars, I'd like to not have that, but no cars, no airplanes, no boats, because they're environmentally sensitive, is ludicrous. And almost every even Democrat knows this. But the far left has made it hard for them to even speak up, lest they be off the reservation and excoriated. I want you, especially you Democrats, to be free, to be able to say what's really on your mind. You don't want to be called a bigot, but you may have to stand up to the people who are throwing this flame out there and take some hits in the process. I'm willing to do that for the next couple election cycles. I am running for assembly. I hope to in the future be running for a statewide office. I am a Democrat, but I am not running as a Democrat. And please don't vote Democrat. There are other options. You don't have to go all the way to Republican. There are independents. There's even parties that are neither Democrat nor Republican. There are the possibility of strong write-in candidates doing a write-in campaign. So we'll see if I'm prepared for debate. You should be too, though, if you're listening. One, they will occasionally make up a term, and then they expect to embarrass you for not knowing it. For about a year, people who didn't know what Latinx was were sort of called out. Now, even Joe Biden didn't know what Latinx was when his minions were still using it, and Latino Americans often still don't know what it is because it's a made-up term by elite white liberals. They often have a term, but it's meaningless. So that's another tactic. They say communities when there's no community. They say stakeholders, which can mean anything. They have a term and it's perverted, like violence, when it's just speech, and they're calling it violence. The true opposite of violence, where there's zero physical harm, they want to call violence or threats, when again, it's just speech and no threat to anyone's person. They make up a term that is actually the opposite because it sometimes sounds good. The word progressive itself is the opposite of what they're really about. How about the latest? Gender affirming, which they mean change your gender when it should mean affirm the gender that you are born with. Oh, be careful of the term from a leftist called the research shows. Usually they don't have research. And even if they do, your common sense almost certainly puts their research in its place, because you can pull research from almost anywhere to bring up or back up even a stupid point. Common sense will be a very good arguer against it. And remember, even when it's true research, it's often skewed research. It's research done by PhDs who have grants. And those grants from government skew their findings. They often have mesmerized graduate students helping them. So their research isn't really all that credible. Okay, I hope I've steeled you somewhat, whether as debater or listener. I hope I myself can fulfill. And I do take the Ben Shapiro attitude that it's not worth having a debate with just one person whose mind you're not going to change anyhow. But it might be worthy of that debate in front of others so that you can embarrass that person's ideas, maybe that person herself or himself. But the ideas need to be slammed down in front of as big a public as you can. I will attempt to do this in the coming months. Thank you, wish me luck, and join me to the extent you can. I'm Mark Stewart.